Hello, this is Mr. McNeil, and this is Symbology Breakdown, Kinematics, Part 2, the advanced terms. In this section of Symbology Breakdown, we are going to be talking about how to express direction when it comes to our symbology in kinematics. This is not going to be a discussion about using the calculus terms to describe x direction and y direction. This is not going to be talking about Newtonian kind of expression of our kinematic terms. Instead, this is just how do we express direction. And going on that, when we express direction in physics, whether it's AP, IB, or physics, we are going to be using the standard axis. I'm using air quotes on that because the standard axis in this case is referring to the Cartesian coordinate system, X, Y, Z. We can, in fact, use other coordinate systems in order to express these things. Polar is a very common one. Cylindrical is a very common one. But as it stands right now, we are just going to be basically using the Cartesian method. So an example of us expressing things in the Cartesian coordinate system is position and displacement. Now, fortunately enough, in the case of position and displacement, those directions are baked into what those are, with the exception of the S notation. So in IB, we would be expressing displacement as S, but if we were to express ourselves express displacement using X and Y and Z, we would have to use S and then a subcomponent of X, Y, and Z below it. Now, in AP and just standard physics, it's baked in for displacement because it's delta X, delta Y, delta Z. That's our displacement, with the X, Y, Z giving us our coordinate system. And position is the same way. It's just X, Y, and Z. Cool? Moving on to a more complicated term, and that is velocity. So velocity, we have to attach the axis to that. And as you can see in my example, Vx, Vy, Vz is just telling me that there's a velocity in the X direction, a velocity in the Y direction, or a velocity in the Z direction. The difficulty is if I were to bring in some parts into part one, where we're talking about initial, final. So we would end up having to go xi, the initial or the velocity in the X direction initially, or even ix. Either one would be acceptable, but that would tell me that it would be the initial velocity in the X direction. Or in the case of the V, or in the Y direction, it'd be V I Y or V Y I. Both of those would tell me that it's the initial velocity in the Y direction. So it's just something that you have to keep track of when dealing with complex motions. Okay? And as it stands, sorry, this is a mix-up. So in acceleration, we basically are following the exact same rules that we followed with velocity. And we won't be dealing with changing acceleration, so we will not have to deal with that I, that F, or that O. Cool? So this is Symbology Breakdown Kinematics, Part 2, the advanced section. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to answer them.